The villagers of Eastwind knew little of the man who lived in the mansion on the hill, only rumor. Some would tell you his generosity was second only to his irascible nature. Others might say his abrasive demeanor and cold heart warranted his self-imposed isolation. The fact was, he simply didn't care what they thought, as long as they left him alone. Friends were for the weak. For those needing to be coddled, whose mummies smothered them as children, never letting them learn true independence. That was not Ezra Crook. No, he reveled in solitude, embraced it as one probably would an old friend. More time to read, practice art, and work in the laboratory. If he had wanted the distraction of company, he would have taken a wife decades ago, when the idea had still held small appeal. So it was to his lip-twitching surprise late one autumn evening, peering through the grand arched window in the study, that he spotted a small scruffy girl carelessly trudging up the pebbled path. No one came to his door. The grocer, butcher, bank manager, everyone knew better, leaving their goods or letters by the gate instead. Most unusual. Hurriedly crossing the reception room, he grunted, aged muscles straining, his black cane clicking across the dusty tiles as the bell tolled for the fourth time. The noise startled him, harsh and unfamiliar. Had it truly been so long since he had forgotten that sound? Old hinges screamed in protest, the door groaned open, and Ezra served up his most sickening snarl, but she smiled sweetly and looked past him. "What?" he hissed. "Why is your house so big?" "None of your business." "Go on, scram," he flicked out his cane. "I've nowhere to go, not yet anyway." "Not my problem." "Back to your mother, I've no time for childish nonsense." The slamming door echoed up through the dual curved staircases, and Ezra turned, head shaking. "I always wanted to ask, what's that?" He jumped at her voice, swiveling, cane brandished like a rapier. "What the? How did you get in here?" She said nothing, a knowing smirk on her pale face. "Get out, you little brat!" Grasping for her threadbare jacket, he missed. No, not missed. Somehow, in a blink, she stood at his opposite side, grinning like the cat that got the cream. Oh, how he hated cats. "What is that?" She repeated a little louder, pointing. He followed the direction of her finger to the feathered, armored, bare-standing guard by the dining room entrance. An experiment. He crept closer, nostrils flared. "You need better hobbies, Ezra." Folding her arms, she tapped her chin. "Probably why the villagers are scared of you?" He straightened. "They fear me? After all I've done for them?" "Oh, they appreciate your generosity." She moved to the next taxidermied monstrosity, arms behind her back as though at a gallery opening. "But they are terrified of you. Would you trust an old loner who hides behind grand walls and has nothing but animal corpses for the company? They whisper you know? What's he building up there? Where'd he come from? How does he make his money? That sort of thing. Of course, people always gossip about their betters. Now I won't repeat myself, get. Oh, I remember this one. This one was real tricky, getting those wings on right. It took days. You remember? Of course. What did you call it? Your wolf eagle or buzzard hound, was it? Close enough. Now get out. These silly jokes are getting in the way of my work. Out. Okay, grumpy. I'll call tomorrow unless you want to come with me? Ezra's brow furrowed into a valley of disdain. Fair enough. Throwing open the door, she waved dismissively over her shoulder. I'll see you tomorrow then. No, you won't. The gate will be chained. It is already. Well, the hounds will be patrolling, he snapped. Those hounds? She pointed beyond withering hedges to 3 skinny Dobermans wrestling over a pigeon's carcass. They won't stop me. Titus. Rex. Brutus. His roaring fell on deaf ears, and he growled, watching the little intruder disappear down the overgrown garden path. Won't stop you, eh? I will soon see about that. The sun was little more than an orange smear behind the jagged hills when Ezra sprang from his 4-poster bed. Another sleepless night spent snarling at the water-damaged ceiling, but now his thoughts raged with the audacity of that little brat. Barging into his house, he would show her. Her name was a mystery, yet her face wouldn't leave his mind. Those inkwell eyes. Her familiarity with him was infuriating. Appetite forgotten, he stomped from room to room, checking the windows and doors were shut tight and searching for his old hunting equipment. If someone wanted to break into his home, he had every right to defend himself. All morning he sat by the window, fingers tapping the blunderbuss, other hand picking at the net he once caught a boar in. His fervor darkened with the sky outside as the evening came and went, without sight of his quarry. Seething, he stormed to the other windows, searching with narrowed eyes, but she was nowhere to be seen. So why was he mad? Was that not what he wanted? Lighting an oil lamp, he wandered, blowing out an exasperated breath as he stared around the peeling wallpaper of the reception. To bed? A book, perhaps? The laboratory? He eyed the door to the basement. This latest creation sat down there in the moist, moldy darkness, unfinished, calling to him as all unfinished business calls. Sleep would not come tonight, he could feel it in his bones. Insomnia had cursed him in recent weeks. Hand grasping the basement door's brass handle, he began to turn. A gun? Really? His eyes grew wide at the moonlight-edged silhouette leaning against the front door. The voice was unmistakable, full of self-righteous confidence. You, he spat, hobbling forward. Were you expecting someone else? A chimera of yours, maybe? He shot a sideways glance at the doorway of the study, and more importantly, the weapons within. He would never make it. So, tucking his cane under his arm, he clapped. Loud and slow. Well done. You've snuck up on an old man in an old house. You must be ever so proud. He stepped forward, straightening his back as much as he could. She mirrored him. What is your name, little girl? I've many names. Different people call me different things. What do you call yourself then? I tell you what, she stepped closer still. Simply catch me 3 times, and I will tell you everything you want to know. He snatched her arm and, to his surprise, caught it. She was real, solid, not a figment as he had been inwardly dreading. A syrupy smile dripped over her oval face, so that is a yes, and one to you. Bolting up the stairs with such speed as only a child could muster, timbers shrieking underfoot. He followed, once again on the hunt. She would not get far. No one knew these halls like him. Every creaky floorboard, every unoiled hinge would lead him to her. And so they raced through the utter darkness, cat and mouse, hunter and prey. As the night rushed by, so did his mood, anger melting away to be replaced with curiosity. The few times he thought he nearly had her, ready to pounce, she would whisper in his ear. Behind you. By the time he turned, all that was left was the fading sound of giggles in a rush of footsteps. A strange sound, distinctly unfamiliar. One this house knew little of. Hours passed of this bizarre game of hide and seek, and a stranger noise rose with the sun. Guttural and raspy, alien and familiar all at once. His laughter. How long had it been? Had it ever been? Ezra? I'm down here. She sang from the kitchen. Dashing down the stairs, he threw away his cane, the aches and pains of age forgotten, the desire for the catch more potent than any opium. She stood beyond the back door, amongst the remnants of flower beds, now overpowered by towering weeds. He slid to a stop, hands gripping the doorframe. He wanted to cross, but could not. She was so close, yet so far away. "Come on, Ezra, let's go," she beckoned. As if an anchor had been dropped, he was stuck, trapped inside, stumbling backward, his legs suddenly trembling, shocks of crippling pain arcing from hip to shoulder. He careened into the counter and held it as if it was all that kept him afloat. His head swam and buzzed, and waves of rancid odors clawed at his throat and nose. "Help!" His voice was weak, almost imperceptible. He let go, and the cold floor hit hard. No help came. The girl was gone. He lay there for an unknowable length of time, listening to his wheezing breath, feeling it grate against his chest. Heart hammering, ears ringing. Too old for playing games, you idiot. Yet for the first time in a